Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Woodlands Community Centre. Some housekeeping before we begin. We are not expecting a fire drill, but if the fire alarm does sound, please leave the building through the exit and meet outside at the fire assembly point. Councillors will be using their mobile and tablet devices during the evening to access the agenda. So if you see people using IT equipment, that is why. We always welcome people to speak at the meeting, and although this is a formal committee meeting of Eastleigh Borough Council's Bishopstoke, Fair Oak and Horton Heath Local Area Committee, it is not a public meeting. Members of the public that have registered to speak will be invited to at the relevant agenda item and will be given a total of 3 minutes. When the light is amber, they have 30 seconds remaining. People wishing to speak on an item on the agenda are able to do so before the debate starts. Once the debate has started, however, it will not be possible to invite or receive comments from the floor. We want to be as inclusive as possible, but we will not tolerate any disruptions to our meetings. Should there be any disruption, we do have the power under the Council's constitution to remove people from the meeting or to continue in private, neither of which we would take lightly or would wish to do so. This meeting will be recorded and it will be uploaded to the Council's website. So if any member of the public prefers not to be recorded, then do please contact a member of the staff. Before we go on to the main agenda, I would just like to ask members if it would be acceptable, because I understand we have speakers not only wishing to speak in public participation, but under item 8, that we move item 8 up the agenda to be heard after public participation. Is that all right?
Yes.
Thank you, members. Okay, so item 1 is apologies. Laura, do we have any apologies?
Yes, Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Radine.
Thank you. Declarations of interest. Members, you are invited to declare an interest in any item of business on the agenda. Any interest declared will be recorded on the minutes. Councillor Couldrey.
I'm a trustee of the Fair Oak Community Library and a parish councillor of Fair Oak Parish Council. There's an agenda item on the accounting report where money is asked for the library. The parish own the library, but the trustees of the charity, the Fair Oak Community Library, actually run the library. So I've got lots of hats. They are all duties rather than interests, but they should be declared.
We note your personal non-prejudicial interests that you have just declared there. Thank you. And I now notice that we have Councillor Broomfield and Councillor Marsh. Councillor Broomfield first. Thank you.
I also am a trustee of Fair Oak Library.
Thank you, Councillor Broomfield. Councillor Marsh.
On the same agenda item, I am a parish councillor for Fair Oak and Horton Heath, so non-pecuniary interest.
Thank you, Councillor Marsh. All of these are noted. Thank you very much. Now we go on to item 3, which is our minutes. Members, do I have a proposer? Councillor Broomfield. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Couldrey. Are there any comments on the... No? Okay, I will raise some matters that are arising in my chair's address, but that will be coming later. So thank you very much. Can I have a show of hands? All in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. Now I'm going to move to public participation. I have got 3 requests from 3 people to speak under participation. Eddie, Layla and Lily from St James's Primary School regarding flooding. Eddie, Layla and Lily, would you like to come up and speak? Thank you very much.
Thank you to the Chair and Committee for allowing us to speak. I am Layla Dowd. I am Eddie Topping. And I'm Lily Stewart, and we are representing St James Church of England Primary School. We have been learning about courageous advocacy, and we are concerned about the flash flood that took place in Fair Oak on the 12th of July 2021.
We are here to deliver a statement to the Council. This was a critical incident that may happen again. Many people were stranded in the floods, and emergency services could not get to their patients using Allington Lane.
This life-changing problem has impacted people greatly, and some were forced to evacuate their homes, which were damaged by the high-rising floodwater.
Not only have emergency services and people's homes been affected, the native wildlife has suffered through the floods as well. Many mammals, reptiles and various other creatures have lost their lives and/or homes to the floods. We appreciate what you have achieved so far to improve this situation for residents, but we believe more can be done as we have shown in our letters.
Can you ensure that ditches and drains are properly maintained and everything that can be put in place to prevent future floods is done, as the residents in this community deserve to be protected?
Thank you for your time.
Would you like to come up? Thank you very much. Thank you for coming to address us. We just wanted to reassure you that, yes, after the floods that occurred in Fair Oak, there has been a lot of activity, including from members of this committee. Councillor Broomfield has been very involved with the Environment Agency and officers, looking at how it can be prevented in the future. Some of the responsibility doesn't unfortunately lie with Eastleigh, and they are matters which are the responsibility of Hampshire County Council, but we will feed back to them on your behalf. We also wanted to let you know that we've organised with the Environment Agency to have a meeting where we're looking at a volunteer group that might be able to assist. So there are lots of things that are being planned, and I hope that alleviates some of your fears. But you're absolutely right, flooding is awful. It impacts most certainly not only on people but on our wildlife. And given climate change, we're really worried that it could affect us more in the future. So thank you very much for coming to speak to us. You're welcome to go and sit down. Thank you. You're of course welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but if anybody would like to go, you are more than welcome to. Okay. I'll just let you... Thank you all for taking the time to come and see us. Thank you. Okay, members, with your agreement, we are going to move to item 8, which is a motion by Councillor Tidridge, and I would like to ask Councillor Tidridge to propose her motion, and then we will enter into the list of speakers who have requested to address the committee. Councillor Tidridge, could you please propose your motion?
Can I just clarify, do you want to read the motion out?
Yes, sorry, your motion must be read.
Thank you. My motion is about open water swimming in the Itchen. The proposal is to consider the following motion to be moved by Councillor Jim Tidridge, that's myself, and seconded by Councillor Louise Parker-Jones, the Chair. That this committee asks Eastleigh Borough Council to investigate the costs to commission a user survey in the Itchen on the stretch between the lock of Bishopstoke and the first railway bridge to the north, using a methodology congruent with gathering evidence for designation as a bathing water. This will need to be done between 15th of May and 30th of September, and will need to include consultation with the landowners. This could be done by working with social media groups, including Hampshire Open Water Swimmers and Friends of the Itchen Navigation. The objective is to establish what level of leisure bathing takes place on the river. This should then be communicated to both Southern Water and DEFRA. Although the Itchen is subject to strict statutory protection, there's been considerable concern about pollution being released into the river. If this section can be designated as a bathing water, the Environment Agency will develop a bathing water profile and put plans in place to monitor and protect the bathing water. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Tidridge, I think you had a further part to your statement.
Sorry about that. If the survey results do not lead to designation, it will still be valuable to highlight to Southern Water and other local stakeholders that the river is used for bathing, and therefore public health should be considered, as well as the environmental impact whenever sewage or other pollutants enter the river upstream of Bishopstoke.
Thank you, Councillor Tidridge. Now I have a list of 4 people. Councillor Tidridge, are you reserving your right to speak on this item?
I can speak now, but to be honest, I think I'd rather reserve the right to speak because I'd like to hear what the members of the public here and my fellow members have to say.
Thank you. Right. So I will second your motion to ensure that we can debate it. And with that in mind, I will now ask a statement from Richard King to be read out by our local area committee manager, Andrew Thompson. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is a statement by Richard King, the joint landowner of Withy Meadows, Bishopstoke. This statement is with reference to agenda item 8, open water swimming in the Itchen. Alongside my father, we as landowners both own Withy Meadows. Is that right, Withy? Yes, sorry. Water meadows, and subsequently the public footpath extending to half the riverbed on the perimeter of our land, which stretches from Withymead Lock across the far side of the meadows, ending at the Kissing Gate. This means our land would be directly affected by the proposed change in designation of the water in the river. This has only just been brought to my attention on Monday, the 30th of January evening, of which I'm deeply troubled, angry and upset that this has been progressed and opened up for discussion in a public forum without the common decency to consult with and get on board first the affected landowners, the organisations such as fishing groups holding the fishing rights, the Environment Agency, all of which have an interest. Surely opening this proposed change in designation up to public debate is a complete waste of time if you've not got the affected parties on board first. Whatever happened to following due process and showing a bit of respect? After all, those with an interest in changing the designation of the water to promote wild swimming only have the public right-of-way access along the public footpath and no ownership or right to access any other part of the land concerning, including the river. I can in no way, shape or form encourage or condone wild swimming in my father and I's part of the river, or any proposal which would open it up or encourage this activity further. Clearly changing the designation of the water to bathing water would only further encourage wild swimming and would be a dangerous thing to do from a liability perspective. Furthermore, the agenda for this very meeting refers to the Itchen being subject to a strict statutory protection. This refers to the Itchen navigation being designated a special area of conservation and special scientific interest. As landowners, any of our activity is quite rightly subject to conform to these statutory protections. I fail to see how changing the designation of the water to bathing water can be in alignment with these protections if it encourages activity which clearly will further disturb the wildlife that calls Itchen navigation home. Finally, I would like to add the Bishopstoke, Fair Oak and Horton Heath Local Area Committee does not have jurisdiction over the whole of the Itchen navigation. My understanding is that the border is halfway across the navigation stroke river. In conclusion, I want to register my opposition to the nature of the proposal and for its discussion at this local area committee. I will also be following up with a complaint to Eastleigh Borough Council about how this has been handled to date, given it has been developed by 2 councillors without support of multiple landowners.
Thank you very much. I will now call on Kieran Gilling. I'm going to ask Andy to read a statement on behalf of Kieran Gillingham, Friends of the Itchen Navigation.
Whilst I recognise the health benefits from wild swimming here, I do have concerns about the increased numbers of swimmers will have a negative impact on the river, the footpath, the SSSI and the SAC habitats. This could potentially affect the designated status of the site. This area's prime spawning habitat for salmon and their future in the Itchen is under serious threat. Any activities in the water during the salmon migration and spawning season is potentially very damaging to them. The riverbanks in Bishopstoke and the paths are in a terrible state, and we are losing the large reed beds and the banks at an alarming rate due to erosion caused by people. The large increase in numbers of people from a scheme like this is going to put a huge amount of pressure on all of this, and it will have a negative impact on the water quality due to increased siltation and the bank collapse. You will not just get respectful wild swimmers, you will also have a large increase in antisocial swimmers, plastic toys and boats. More people will picnic and barbecue on the narrow footpath, restricting and deterring access, and they will leave litter. We need to reduce access to the banks to protect the vegetation in the path, not increase access to the river. The councils are not currently maintaining the paths or dealing with vandalism, fly tipping or clearing litter and these issues, as well as the winter flooding of the area, should be looked into before increasing pressures on this site.
Thank you very much. And now, and our third statement is being read again by our local area manager on behalf of Gordon King.
The article in the Echo appears to give the impression that it's for recreation, also that Bishopstoke Council are trying to dedicate a swimming area on the Itchen. One could ask why this committee is not promoting an alternative, as just down the road is the Lakeside Country Park, which appears a good compromise as it has good facilities, parking, toilets, changing rooms, also safely for all the swimmers.
Very sorry, I'm not sure why it went beep. I probably pressed the wrong button. Now I would like to ask Rachel Whitfield from Hampshire Open Water Swimmers to come and speak. If you wouldn't mind, please. Thank you. Thank you very much, Rachel.
Hi. I didn't get the memo about writing a statement in advance. I'm autistic as well, so I'm finding this quite stressful, so please do bear with me. My name's Rachel Whitfield and I run Hampshire Open Water Swimmers. We've got around 3,000 members. I also run a mental health swim on the River Itchen. I feel that many of our members would be broadly in favour of the designation, but that we would really like to work with landowners and with other interested parties so that it didn't become an adversarial us against them, because since the news article was published, we've been the victim of a lot of vitriol on social media, with some of our members even feeling threatened and having to cancel their swims. And I really feel that we need to work on the parties working together and not becoming swimmers do this and swimmers do that, because actually my swimming group raised nearly £700 to fix a large section of the Itchen with Mr Gillingham's help, and we treasure and love the Itchen and do everything we can to protect it. We run events to teach people about the salmon spawning patterns, like we've promoted the use of dog steps to prevent damage to the banks. So whilst we are broadly in favour of this, we would like that to be recognised that our wild swimming group didn't put this motion forward, because I think we've been sort of blamed as being divisive, and it wasn't us that did it. And also that, you know, we recognise that we've done a lot to protect the river, and whilst monitoring the bathing waters is definitely in the interest of public health, it really needs to be in a way where everybody feels on board and that people don't feel got at or vilified, because it has caused a lot of stress and upset the last couple of days. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will reply to your statement about stating that you've been a victim of hate and abuse as a result of the motion, which was nobody's intention. It was never stated that it came from Hampshire Open Water Swimmers. So I want that absolutely recorded, that this was a mechanism by which councillors wanted to address the sewage and the rubbish which is ending up in our beloved Itchen. And I do hope actually that the police will get involved, because it's completely inappropriate to bully anybody, and particularly when people haven't perhaps read all the facts. I'm very upset and very distressed to have heard that you've experienced that. Sorry, members, I just felt I had to say something. Okay, there were a number of points raised there, which I'm sure we will all cover. Not least of all, that actually Councillor Tidridge's opening statement was that there should be a consultation undertaken with landowners, with the Environment Agents, and with many others. So I'm sure that we will come back to many of the points we have heard in the debate. Councillor Tidridge, would you like to come back now? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all those who supplied statements to be read and who spoke at the meeting. It's much appreciated. I'd like to start off by reiterating what Lou has just said. I am not a member of Hampshire Open Water Swimmers. I have not been approached by any member of Hampshire Open Water Swimmers or any other organisation when I decided to propose this motion. The reason I decided to propose this motion was my concern about pollution going into the Itchen. In particular, from the pumping station at Brambridge, where there's been a number of incidents. It's really appalling. It's appalling for wildlife. It's appalling for the Itchen Special Area of Conservation, treble SI status, and the wildlife. And it's a public health issue because many people enjoy the Itchen. Many people enjoy swimming in the Itchen. Further downstream at Fishy Beach, it's fantastic to see children having a great time in the summer in the Itchen. I do know lots of people who enjoy open water swimming. I'm a member of a running club, and many members of my running club combine a swim with a run, and I know it gives them a great deal of pleasure. My concern is that according to Service Against Sewage, of the 600 plus designating bathing waters in the UK, only one is currently a river. 2 now, is it? Thank you. That's March 2022. You're more up to date than me. So there are very few rivers that are actually designated bathing waters. Now let's get this straight, what a designated bathing water means. It does not mean diving platforms or water slides. It does not mean a sign saying, yes, you can swim here. It doesn't directly lead to any promotion of bathing in a water. None. All it means, the designation, is that the Environment Agency will be obliged to monitor the water quality. They'll be obliged to monitor the water quality and report on it and draw up a plan. If that water quality is bad, is find out why and try and work with the relevant stakeholders to try and improve it. In this case, highly likely to be Southern Water. It does not mean any promotion of swimming in the Itchen. When you look at what the designation would mean in terms of how it would be publicised, it will be on DEFRA's website. DEFRA's website, it lists all the designated bathing waters in a list of names. It does have a map, which just consists of little blue blobs on a not particularly detailed map. Also on this map, there are some sites which are down with a red circle with a slash through it, which means that the public are advised not to swim in that designating bathing water because the water quality is poor. That's what it means. And the reason why I'd like to see the designation happen is I really want the Environment Agency to monitor the water quality of the Itchen because it's a public health issue. I absolutely agree that we need to find out how many people, the whole purpose of this motion, so I've got a cold at the moment, my brain isn't quite, I'm not quite as sharp as I think I normally am, but what this proposal aims to do is to see whether or not we can commission a survey working with lots of different stakeholders. Those stakeholders could include the clubs and individuals who currently use the Itchen for swimming, and certainly we'd need to find out what levels of people do. Some sort of online survey working with those organisations would be a really good way to do that. It does need to involve talking to the landowners. That's part of the requirements for a designated bathing water. It can't go all the way through the process if there isn't consultation with the landowners. That's in the motion. It's clear, it's there. And I'm really sorry that somehow the Daily Echo decided to publish something which somehow muddied that water, if you'll forgive the analogy. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Great.
So we've just done the surveys of the whole of the navigation, and then this come up, and
it hasn't helped you.
my group even got blamed for putting this forward as well, because they knew we'd already done surveys, and so they thought them surveys that we'd done were for this. So I had fishing clubs contacting me, giving me quite a lot of stick, thinking that I wish for bathing status because I've got
yeah.
swim. So that's why it actually caused a lot of
Yeah. But what I just want to make it very clear, I don't think anybody in this room would be in favour of seeing big signs up on the Itchen saying swim here is a designated bathing water. That's exactly not what was proposed. Mm.
They did have to have quite a large number of swimmers.
Yes. I mean, it may not be high enough for that.
Quite a small number of swimmers, wild swimmers, that are very respectful, and it's, when I say tolerated, is some of the landowners don't want a large amount of swimmers, so they turn a blind eye to it. If we did have to have more and more people, and this happened last year, there was a canoe site actually posted at Bram, which was a paddle point site where you could launch your canoes, canoe down, you can't do that there, but they posted that, and we had not hundreds, we had dozens of people, you know, coming down with inflatables, getting onto the river, and it caused massive problems. And that was just one website posting that. But in the small print, it did say that you had to have permission from the landlord.
Yes.
So we're very aware, and the preservation is very aware of.
Yeah. I appreciate that it's really sensitive, and that's why the whole thing would have to be in consultation with, working closely with everybody. I feel that everybody, or a lot of people, have the same objective, which is we want to see the Itchen looked after. I want to make sure that people that are swimming in the Itchen are, their public health is considered. There's a lot of health benefits from open water swimming, and that's great, but there's also an issue in terms of risk from polluted water. And if we can bring this, if all we do is get as far as doing a survey to find out what level of swimming there is in the Itchen, I think that would be useful. It would be certainly useful for Southern Water to know.
Sorry, everybody, and I don't want to stifle debate, but we are in a meeting. Yeah. We're not supposed to be taking comments, and it's
absolutely.
And clearly there is a lot of information that you would be able to share. So I think we should get back on track, if that is all right, members. And I didn't want to stifle debate, but it is important. I'm also really concerned that you've been threatened. I'm personally feeling very trustees have been.
That's awful.
That is really worrying, and I'm actually concerned in whether we're under an obligation, because threats is really bad, and I think it should be raised with the police. And I am going to do that when I leave this meeting. No, yeah. Threats is inappropriate. Nobody will be bullied. This was put forward by Councillor Tidridge and nobody else. And it's completely inappropriate that anybody has been threatened. I'm mortified over something which was about stopping people getting E. coli. It was stopping sewage going in. This is what we want. We want to stop sewage going into the River Itchen because it's a triple SI. And what I'm hearing is that some people have taken it upon themselves to threaten other people. And that's really, really
inappropriate.
Not appropriate.
The issue has been tried to be
Well, I will come back to Councillor Tidridge on that because I know about some of the rules surrounding swimming.
I think some of the points you make are very valid. I just think it's a real shame that it seems to have turned from something which was let's try and stop sewage going into the Itchen, which I don't think anybody would disagree with. And I don't think anybody would disagree that we want public health to be as good as it can be, into something which seems to be difficult for everybody. And it's a real pity that we can't have a good conversation about it without it turning into threats being made to people and people being made to feel uncomfortable. That's really sad.
Okay, I'm really sorry. We're going to have to bring this back together.
Yeah, I'm sorry we can't involve you more, but the opportunity for public speaking was at the start of this item, I'm afraid, and the meeting structure is difficult in terms of to and fro. So please don't feel that we're cutting you off, or please don't feel that we don't want to hear you. I still want to hear you. I'd really like to pick up with you afterwards on this. That would be great. But as far as the motivation for the motion goes is, I'd just like to find out how many people are swimming in that stretch of the Itchen. And it may well be that it's way too small for it to be designated as a bathing water, but it would still be interesting to know that people are bathing there, because we can then take that to Southern Water, for example, to highlight that when they release sewage into the Itchen, they are not only compromising its environmental credentials from the Treble SI, SAC, damaging the salmon, the trout, and all the other fabulous wildlife that uses the river, they're also having a direct impact on public health. And I think that would be a real positive. So that's my reason for proposing it. I've probably spoken for way too much. I'll open it to everybody else.
Thank you, Councillor Tidridge. I'm going to open it up to other members. Councillor Marsh.
I think I just wanted to comment that I think the motion that you were trying to move was commendable. It's a pity it got turned into something that it wasn't originally intended to be. It really is sad to hear that landowners, trustees and swimmers have been threatened over what effectively councillors, from my understanding, and I didn't know about this until I got here tonight. I knew about the motion, but when I read this motion, my only thought was, fantastic, we're going to do something to stop Southern Water from spreading sewage in the water. And that was the only thing I read. So it's quite heartbreaking to hear what you've all been through. And so I really feel for you, and on behalf of all of us, I feel like I owe you, or we owe you, an apology. So apologies, because I know that it was never anyone's intention to cause any offence to landowners, swimmers, trustees, or anyone else. So I'd like to give an unreserved apology. This recording will be published after the meeting, so the whole meeting is published. So we can, yeah, that would be helpful.
Just quickly, from a technical point of view, because none of you are using the microphone, it can't actually be heard. It's just echoing in the room, so we can hear what councillors are saying.
I think what my point was, beside being sorry that members of the public have treated all of you so badly and all different areas or all stakeholders so badly, when I think what was intended was really noble, to stop the pollution in the river and nothing more than that. But I think more than anything else, I hope that what comes from this is that we do manage to take the key things from this motion, which is possibly ask if a survey can be done, and it's really about consulting with landowners and working with you. So it's about us speaking to you after this meeting and opening those conversations. So this shouldn't be the end of the process. This is the start of the process, about initiating those conversations. So I'm sorry if landowners and other people felt that they had been blocked out, but this is the first time councillors are publicly talking about this, to try and get something moving so that surveys can happen, so that consultation can happen, and and it's not about having the river bombarded with lots of swimmers. Personally, I can't think of anything worse than swimming in freezing cold water, but especially if there's lots of sewerage in it, I definitely can't think of anything worse. But I think it's important that we look into how we do protect the river for the salmon, if nothing else, because they're not doing too well. So we will work very closely, hopefully, with all groups and all parties, and hopefully it may be that nothing comes from this motion, but it may be that if nothing else, the one positive that comes from it is opening up a forum where all different parties can speak to each other. And I think that was my point, really. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marsh. Would any other member like to comment? Councillor Broomfield.
Thank you. I'm not so much commenting, I just actually have a couple of questions. We're talking about commissioning a user survey congruent with gathering evidence. I must admit, I haven't heard congruent for 20 years. Who sets the methodology? And what intrigues me is gathering evidence of how many, of how much wild bathing, leisure bathing takes place on the river. Does that, if we're talking sort of sheer numbers, are we talking, is a head count of 10, is that 10 people once or one person 10 times? And does that make a difference to how much? And then finally, what's the final level of what the usage has to be? Is there a sort of finite number of people per feet or something? Or number of users per day? I don't know. So it would be useful to have just a bit of a broad sketch about what this survey actually looks like and feels like, so that we know what we're voting on. And then my final question is, presumably Eastleigh does or Eastleigh coordinates or funds or pays for the survey and then passes on to whom? Southern Water? Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'll let Jen answer those questions.
Thank you. So the methodology, all the details I've found out about methodology come from DEFRA. DEFRA do publish the dates which in the motion, and they specify that it has to include so many weekends and public holidays. That's all there. What isn't in the guidance is what level would be considered to be acceptable, or considered to be sufficient. That's not there. That would be rather helpful if it was, but it's not in the DEFRA guidance. If we were to go ahead with it, and I would like to stress that this motion isn't saying that we should carry out the survey. The motion is saying we should look into carrying out a survey. We should see if it's possible. And perhaps one of the conclusions from tonight is, or one of the conclusions from that subsequent work could be, having consulted with everybody who actually think there's a different way of doing it, great. That's really good. But in terms of the actual motion itself, it's to look into doing the survey. And it would be down to Eastleigh Borough Council officers, because it's generally something which is done by a local authority. Eastleigh Borough Council officers would be advising in terms of what sort of survey, how many responses would be needed, how it could be carried out, and certainly would have to be done in conjunction with all local stakeholders. And again, I'd just like to stress that we cannot put in an application for designation without consulting with landowners, without consulting with everybody.
Councillor Marsh and then Councillor Couldrey.
Sorry, I'm assuming that the key thing that is in here is that the committee asks Eastleigh Borough Council to investigate the cost of commissioning a survey. And I would guess that it's probably so extortionate that no survey will probably ever be done, if we're unfortunate, unless we find some miraculous pot of money. So it's unlikely. But one of the things that I would be interested in finding out is, should the cost be extortionate and we not be able to have any form of survey, would there be any mileage in us then looking at putting together a task group working alongside all of these parties that are involved at how we work in unison to ensure that our water is kept clean?
I think there was almost an amendment, which is if the motion doesn't go through, that we start with a am I correct, Councillor Marsh, that you would like to propose that we, even if we don't have a survey, that we work with the dedicated groups to look at what could be done to improve the quality of the water?
That is correct. I am suggesting that if the cost of this is too expensive to get the survey, that I'd like an amendment suggesting that we set up a group of councillors and all different parties to talk about how we work in a united way to ensure the cleanliness of the water and that no sewage is being into. Because for me, the bottom line is the water needs to be clean.
I couldn't agree more. I'm really concerned about people's health and our animals' health. Councillor Couldrey was next, and then it will be Councillor Tidridge. And if we are going to take your amendment, we'll have to have it proposed and seconded as, I think, almost like a part B to the motion. Unless you're happy with that.
I'm very happy to accept it.
Oh, you're happy to accept that. That's good. Thank you. Councillor Couldrey.
I entirely agree with the intent behind this motion to try and get this water cleaned up. It is a national scandal. It's the local example of the national scandal, but it's very important for us here that we do have clean water in the rivers. And I don't very much care how it's done. It's got to be done with consultation. Whether it's done in a cost, I always thought that asking for the cost was I'd have just taken out the cost and said to commission a survey.
I wasn't allowed to do that.
But it doesn't matter what precisely it says, provided we do something. I'm very happy to establish a task group, but we've got to do something. It is an important issue, so I'm all in favour of driving through with this, which means it's going to come back several times to this committee.
Okay, do other members have any more comments? So, we are taking the motion with an additional statement that if it's cost prohibitive, that we still work up. In fact, or should it be including having a task group of members?
I think even if we were able to afford a survey, one of the requirements to proceed with the survey is setting up a task group and consultation to ensure that all parties' best interests are looked after.
I think that was absolutely fundamentally clear in Councillor Tidridge's opening statement, but I like that and agree. Yep. So with that in mind and with the amendment, the additional statement from Councillor Marsh included, can I have a show of hands from members for the motion, please? All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. That's the end of the debate. If anybody would like to stay, you're welcome to, but if not, you're welcome to leave. Okay. Thank you very much for coming. Sorry, we had the public debate at the beginning of this section, and people were invited to speak. Yes, you may, Councillor Marsh.
Okay, so what I'm saying is nobody does anything without talking to you and saying, what do you want? And what's right for you, and making sure that your land is protected. So that we shouldn't be actively encouraging swimmers, and that was never what Councillor Tidridge was ever suggesting. It was all about the sewerage, not about the swimmers. The swimmers were just the mechanism to try and get the clean water. But I'm saying what we should do is, before anything else happens, anyone else talks about anything, we get all of you together in a room and all have an opportunity about talking about how we sort out the sewerage, because that's the problem, that's the issue, is the sewerage and keeping the water clean. So. Okay. Okay, then. Is when you're talking about consultation with the landowner, does that mean you're going to ask them or not?
Excuse me, it's a consultation means you enter a discussion. It's not about permission or not permission. It's the beginning of a conversation about how we improve the quality of the Itchen water. That is what it is. I'm very sorry, but we have now finished that item and I will be moving us on.
Can I just say, can I encourage you to write to us as councillors? You've got our email addresses, contact us and we'll make sure we're speaking. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else wishing to speak? Are you staying? I know, but I just thought I should ask. Everybody else is going. Right, where have we got to, councillors? Oh, my announcements from item 8 back. Oh, dear. Thank you, Laura, keeping me on track. Okay, I'm not going to spend long talking. I have one piece of very sad news for everybody, which is with deep regret that I have to say that Councillor Rowlands Angie unfortunately passed away, and she was a member not only of this committee and a long-term Eastleigh Borough Councillor and became an alderman. She was our Bishopstoke ward councillor for a long time. Many of us knew her personally outside of politics. And in addition to that, she was a Bishopstoke parish councillor. And I believe she was also a Hampshire County councillor. So that is very sad. And our thoughts are obviously with her family at this sad time. In addition, I wanted to update you on your request that I write to the Chief Executive. And I know we spoke about this briefly in the team meeting, and I'm hopeful that you all saw his response today. I have to say I am thrilled that we have been given some time frame. So I would like to record our thanks to the Chief Executive for taking the time to respond to the problems that we've been having getting assets transferred, and we do understand the difficulties that Eastleigh has been facing. So yes, please record our thanks for the Chief Executive for responding. We'll obviously be looking closely at them timescales as they come forward. Item 6 is our next item, and that is the finance report, and I will ask Andy Thompson to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. The report is as written, although there's a slight, it was a late amendment in paragraph 21, where I don't know whoever's the copy, which one that the clerk was asked by the local area manager to provide a footfall data for the library. Thus far, however, at the time of publication of this report, these figures were still outstanding. We did receive those late and they were published online. So we did have those. Some of the reports just might be some confusion. So they are now part as Appendix 1, and hopefully members have had a chance to see that. So just give you a quick overview of the finance report. The first item is a request for £64,911 of developer contributions for the Fair Oak Library building improvements. A voluntary group took over operating the library under a lease from Fair Oak Parish Council back in 2021 when it came from Hampshire County Council. This committee has already approved funds of £55,928 towards building improvements. Fair Oak Parish Council appointed Carter Jonas to undertake a feasibility about how the feasibility to see what improvements could be made. They came back with various recommendations as set out in paragraph 5, including internal redecoration, upgrading the toilet accommodation, some LED lighting technology, various different items. On the 2nd of October 2022, Fair Oak Parish Council invited tenders. On the 4th of November, 2 contractors did return tenders for the works. They were quite significant, including the extra overs. The contractor 1 was 143,000, contractor 2 was 108,000. Following some tender analysis, it would be recommended by Fair Oak Parish Council that the lower tender would be recommended for approval. The extra overs included various things, certainly with the trustees, which included a new distribution board and a relocation of the boiler. Again, some of the options included more energy efficient lighting, which was the LED lighting, and some rainwater harvesting, as well as alterations to provide easier access for internal space for wheelchair users, aided walkers and parents with prams and pushchairs. Again, looking at the shortfall, including the extra overs and the significant contingency and early works of 15,000, the request is for the shortfall, which is £64,911. Again, we did want to understand the footfall data, which was with the library, and this is detailed in Appendix 1. So the recommendation is for councillors to approve the developer contributions of £64,911. The second part of the finance reports is for an additional wildlife pond and upgrading the existing pond, working with Fair Oak Parish Council at Knoll Park. The existing pond is over 10 years old and it's coming to the end of its life. It needs significant work, including repairing the lining and also to repairing the lining at various wear and tear. The pond is really well used by quite a lot of schools coming in there as well, so it gets quite a lot of use, and so much so that the Parish Council are very keen to extend it and put another pond in the Twynham's field. So the recommendation of this committee is for approval of £8,500 to upgrade the existing pond and provide a second pond. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, now, we haven't got anybody talking on this, do we? I'll now open it up for members' questions first. Has anybody got any questions of Andy, please? None? Okay. If I don't have any questions, I will move to, can I have a proposer, please? And can I have a seconder? Thank you. So Councillor Marsh and then Councillor Couldrey. Thank you. Any debate? Nobody have any debate at all? Oh, I have got a few things that I'm thinking about. I'm really pleased that there is a library that has been maintained in Fair Oak, but I do have a few concerns, which is that the Hampshire County Council divested itself of this library because of its costs and its running costs. And it's such a shame that the numbers haven't picked up and in fact are lower now than before, because historically it was running at 1,254 borrowers and we currently only have, sorry, I need to get back to Appendix A, my computer crashed, so I was trying to get it back up, and now there are 1,090. The numbers are also slightly down compared to previously, which is such a shame. I'm also worried that we agreed as a committee 58,000 and something. I haven't got the exact figure in front of me. I did put a little note on here somewhere. Let me find my note. Yeah, we agreed £55,928,000 in 2021, which was only a couple of years ago. And again, we're being asked, and there was an additional, I think, 13,000 that came from Hampshire County Council at the time. So that was 68,000, and now an additional 68,000 is being asked for. And there's lots of halls and organisations that need a lot of funding. So I do think we need to be mindful of those kind of things. So I do think I should bring that to members' attention, that though it's wonderful that the library is going, it was clearly in a bad state of repair and it's having a lot of money put towards it, because that will be over 100,000 or 120,000 in a couple of years, and I don't think that's sustainable. And I do think we really do need to understand what the parish council's long-term view of this building is and how it can be better used. It's a lot of money going in. So they're my thoughts on that. In respect to the pond, I think that's absolutely brilliant. The pond's amazing, and I don't have any concerns about that, but I did think I should highlight some of my reservations about the library. Councillor Couldrey.
Thank you for that, and thank you for your support earlier on the thing. As you say, the building was very poor when it was passed over to the parish council, and that's why, presumably, Hampshire County Council were very glad to get rid of it. The numbers are very comparable. Given the numbers of borrowers, the numbers of members, given the disruption that's been had with COVID and all the rest in the past, I think it's pretty, it's not possible to say, is it more successful or less successful? All I can say is that the people who used to work there have told me that it looks as if there were many more people coming now than there were then. It is open much longer than it was then. The costs are, of course, much less because we operate with volunteers and the library had paid staff. Now, that is the key difference. The reason we need to change the library's format is twofold. One, it's got to be made wind and watertight, which isn't entirely at the moment. Second, it's got to be made a much more versatile space. The ambition is not just to keep it as a library and nothing else. The ambition is to make it a community hub. It's the main building in the centre of the village, the main publicly owned building in the centre of the village, and it would be very good if we could use it for much more than just as a library. That is why the plan is to convert it into an open space which is much more versatile and can be used for meetings and other things. At the moment it's in 3 separate rooms which don't really communicate well with each other. There's a kitchen slab in the middle. It's just not fit for a modern purpose. And that's why we support the extension. This is a capital input. It's not, this is what we expect will be the last amount of money requested from the local area committee, because it will then convert it into something that's fit for purpose. When we spoke about this 2 or 3 years ago, on the initial allocation, we had no idea. We just knew that we had some expense coming. It was raised. It was thought that we'd put something towards that expense. Nobody had any idea whether it would be enough, or whether it was going to be the last thing that we needed, etc. This, I think, we do believe will be the last time the LAC's asked for money for this project. It is necessary for converting it into a more versatile space, which could be used better by both the parish and the library.
Councillor Marsh.
I totally understand the concerns because it is a large sum of money, and I do understand the concerns too about the numbers being slightly down this year compared to previous years. But I think the figure that I was looking at and was really interested in is, books borrowed, over 15,000 books borrowed, and 46% of those being children. To me, this library is a valuable resource for 2 groups in particular. Those older members of our community that, when I've spoken to them, have explained that they don't have transportation and a means to get into Eastleigh to other libraries. Beside anything else, it was interesting hearing them say just how heavy the books are, that they physically can't carry them back from Eastleigh. So when there was the fear that this library was going to be closed, I could understand the distress it caused, but I also understand that this is a valuable resource for this local community. It is a lot of money, but equally so, looking at the contributions that are being taken, that are coming from the building work that happened on Mortimer's Lane, I think it's right that money is allocated to Fair Oak community, and therefore I having sat in meetings similar to what Nick has, it is my understanding that this money will do two things. It will make the building watertight, and along with that, it will also transform the currently inappropriate shape of the library, which might be why it was originally not fit for purpose. But it should really make it a much better library and far more effective in the future. So I would like to see us supporting it because I think it's a valuable resource for the community.
Any other debate from members? No? Okay. In that case, we have a proposer and a seconder. So all those in favour of supporting?
So can I just ask a question before we vote? As Nick and I are both trustees of the library, is it appropriate for us to vote to give the library lots of money? I just want to make sure.
It's fine for you both to vote because you don't get a financial reward. Well, now we've heard that. Okay, so, sorry, going back. All those in favour? So we've got, everybody's in favour. I think that's unanimous, so that's carried then. Right.
Just to be clear, that was for both recommendations.
That's for both recommendations, yeah. Sorry, Andy, I should have said that, but yes. Could I now ask you, Andy, to present item 7, which is our local area action plan?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Hopefully the committee is a bit more in tune with these now. We've had them for 3-4 years now. Again, this sits under the council-wide corporate plan 2015 to 25. You know, this local area committee, we regularly approve the community investment programme list, which does help set the 106 contributions from developers. Again, this is across all five local areas of the council, and it really does help us to determine budgets, resources across the council's annual business planning cycle. It's also a public-facing document as well for the purpose of transparency, and it helps residents enable to understand what we actually do here. Councillors have seen a draft of the Appendix 1, and it is recommended that for approval, adoption and publication. So going to the actual document, which is the Bishopstoke, Borough and Horton, Heath Local Area Action Plan 23-24. The priorities, very similar to last year, haven't changed, but a couple of the wordings changed. Certainly at the top of our priorities is the tackling climate change and environmental emergency, really enabling the local community to meet the borough's goals, ensuring that climate and environment is central to every project delivered and decision taken. Certainly as well with development, making sure that we work tireless to ensure that development has regard for the views of the and well-being of existing residents, the communities, biodiversity and sensitive habitats. And again, our third priority is community well-being, maximising the delivery of community benefits, working with our parish partners to ensure that our facilities, including funded from developer contributions. So just going down to the projects list, again, Memorial Hall, looking this year to have the demolition of the existing Memorial Hall and pushing forward for planning approval for the new design. Going to the Y-Zone, happy to welcome Youth Options now who are running the youth facility. They're now working from the Y-Zone. We really want to sit down and work with them and really target the young people really most in need and really not being afraid to challenge the status quo, moving away from maybe more traditional based things and how we can really hit those local communities. Lapstone Cricket Farm, a cricket provision providing a second cricket pitch. The plan application is coming to the next committee in March. And again, that also has improved pathways and the wider environmental enhancements. Quabley Woods, to work towards the transfer of this countryside asset, working with the council's countryside team. The new Century Park splash pad, working with Fair Oak and Horton Heath to open the splash pad hopefully in the spring, which I think will be a fantastic asset to the community. Asset transfers, as the Chair mentioned earlier, really working to progress some of those that have stalled and get them transferred in the next year. And the Tree and Bee Corridor projects pilot, I'm really happy that the planting has happened in the last 2 weeks on that, and that's something that we really want to extend and work out further. And finally, as we had at the recent team meeting, we've got a new public art officer really looking to produce that public art vision for the local area, and a really joined up approach that really reflects and celebrates the natural environment and the essence of the local villages. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I will now ask if any member has any question of Andy. Okay, in that case, do I have... Oh, a question, Councillor Broomfield.
Wait, just a quick question. Given the current rearrangements at Eastleigh, would one assume that the box that says responsibilities for the local area manager, and then the box at the bottom that gives the local area manager's details, if this is a living document, will those be
I think
amended?
anything that needs updated can be amended as and if appropriate or when appropriate. So, for example, I'm sure that if when the new chair takes over, they won't want my photograph still up there.
They also might not want your pink colour as well, though.
Oh, I don't think they can get rid of that now. That's corporate. Thank you. So I'll now open up to any debate. Oh, sorry. Oh, I thought we'd done that bit. Can I have a proposer? I did ask, didn't I? Yeah. Can I have a proposer? Councillor Broomfield. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Marsh. Any debate? No debate. Okay, thank you. Then I will just take it straight to the vote. All in favour? That's unanimous. We now go on to item 9, which is a motion from Councillor Tidridge. I must ask Councillor Tidridge to propose her motion and read it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My motion is with regard to the Stoke Park Farm public consultation. That the committee submits a response to the public consultation on Stoke Park Farm as a local area committee. It should be delegated to members of the committee and brought to the 8th of March BIFO LAC meeting for approval. Am I able to talk about
You're welcome to now talk about it straight away. I will second your, but I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. So I think it's really good that this local area committee meeting has not been all about planning. Obviously, planning is a very important function of this committee, but it's really nice to see other areas of local concern, other areas that other areas of interest to local residents being considered. Stoke Park Farm is of massive interest to many of us here and many local residents. I can say that I wouldn't be a councillor. I wouldn't have never stood as a councillor if I hadn't been concerned about the proposal to build thousands of houses over Stoke Park Farm. And I was really pleased to see that the Eastleigh Borough Council have purchased it with a view to using it for nitrate and environmental offset. Environmental offset is a difficult area. Obviously, if you're offsetting damage being done somewhere else, it's arguably not great. But being very selfish about this is an area that is of huge ecological value. It's of huge community value. And I'm really pleased to see that the Eastleigh Borough Council has purchased it. And I'm very pleased that they're undertaking this public consultation. Because this issue is of such great importance, I'd really like to see this local area committee forming our own response to the public consultation. I think we really should do as representatives of our community, and to make sure that we that our views are heard as part of this. I would like to reference that this committee has passed a motion previously expressing a preference for the area to be declared or to move towards the area becoming a local nature reserve. That would be fantastic. It certainly would be completely congruent with all the offset objectives, and it's something that I know every member of this committee was enthusiastic about when we discussed it a few months ago, and I'd really like to see that idea, if not a local nature reserve for the entire site, perhaps part of it, but making sure that whatever is agreed for the land is very much congruent with those environmental, community, conservation, habitat, biodiversity targets, all of which fit completely with EC's strategy as well as with the desires of local residents. I'm very sad to see that there isn't that there aren't members of the public here to speak about this motion tonight, but hopefully they are reserving their efforts for actually responding themselves to the public consultation, which would be good to see. Thank you.
Any member like to add to debate? Councillor Marsh.
I need to say that I support the idea that we should be bringing a response to a public consultation. It's a consultation that we felt passionately about. We want the right thing done with this piece of land for our community, for our residents. So I look forward to hearing the outcome of the consultation, but I think we should respond to the consultation.
Any other members? Councillor Broomfield.
When you say members of the committee, which sounds a bit like the Wilkes-Appleton Shunters Club, do you mean all members or some members? And how are you going to organise getting the members to get together to do this?
What a good question. So, members of the committee, I think that's something we could agree perhaps tonight in terms of who the members of the committee could be, is something that perhaps we could use the forum of a team of an extraordinary team meeting dedicated purely to looking at this. If the chair is minded to work with the local area manager to try and enable that to happen, that would be amazing. But what I'm suggesting is it should be all members of this committee going through the public consultation documentation in the similar format to how we approach our team meetings. Does that make sense?
I'm just going to pass over to our local area manager.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, certainly I think probably an extraordinary team meeting because it would be quite significant, but I'd probably ask members to come armed with their thoughts. So I've certainly written before so we can then agree what the joint response is, because it would be a joint response. It doesn't stop members from responding to the consultation individually, but I think what the proposal is that I'm understanding is it's a joint force from all of us together. So I think if everyone comes to that extra special meeting and we come armed with what you want to say, then we'll agree what goes in, and then that will be submitted on form of BIFAR.
Just say, I think, as with the only local area committee with more than one party representative, it would be nice to have a holistic approach so that we can, it might sound a little more forceful.
Yeah, absolutely. It will be cross-party. I will speak in a second, but I think Councillor Couldrey had something he wanted to say.
Thank you. Yes, I agree that this is the most important thing affecting Fair Oak at the moment, and it's very important that we, as presidents, as a group, we look at this. I also think it's a good idea that we actually discuss this in consultation in a team meeting. I'm absolutely in favour of that. We won't get unanimity on everything because that's not real life. So that I just want to make 2 points. There will be a public consultation. Members of the public may have different views to us, and what we say doesn't necessarily go. It's consultation, and of course, any individual of us can say, no, I don't agree with that, and that's fine.
Councillor Marsh.
I completely agree with Councillor Couldrey and understand that we'll all have our individual opinions, but I do think having a cross-party united approach to this would be beneficial to, if we're able to agree that, but I do think we need to have some drafts in advance of that team meeting so that we can be tweaking them rather than seeing them for the first time. So if it's possible for us to compose various elements of it, whether it be separately and then we work on a combined version, I just know that those meetings can be very long. If that's the first time we're having sight of documents, it's going to be difficult to do.
Absolutely. I echo that we should all be sending our thoughts around in advance. Writing anything by committee in and of itself is difficult, if not near on impossible. And I also think that given that we had our motion, which we unanimously agreed to as a committee, should be forming the basis of how we start the way we go back on this. You will recall that last year at full council, when I actually asked very specifically about this matter and what was going to happen, I was informed it was a matter for BIFO. So actually there's been a slight change. as to where it was going to be discussed. So with that in mind, I do think it's important that we come back with a unified. So I know this is getting into the technical part, but I'm sure that if we were all to start by having our own thoughts and sending them through and circulating them round, and we'll get a date when we can meet, that will give us some deadlines. I'm sure Councillor Tidridge wants to say something, but I also just wanted to finish by saying I think it's great that we're actually putting something out there. I'm a little disappointed I've not seen anything really publicly yet about the consultation dates for the public event, which is coming up in February. And I think perhaps Eastleigh could be encouraged really hard to put some more information out about when those dates are and where, so that local residents might actually be able to attend. And that includes us. We should do all we can to also publicise them. Councillor Tidridge, did you want to come back?
Yes, I just wanted to give members another option, which is I feel the best forum would be an extraordinary team meeting with the members of the committee present. One option we could do to avoid the trying to draft something by committee, which is, as you mentioned, always horrendous. One other alternative is one of us could prepare a straw man, a very, very rough draft that we can then pull apart. I'm happy to do that, but I don't know if that would bias it too much one way. So I'd very much welcome your views as to whether or not you feel that would be better than simply all of us submitting stuff.
I'd really like everybody to send their thoughts to Gin. So if everybody could send their initial thoughts to Councillor Tidridge, perhaps, then that at least gives us the starting place for her to work on it, because then if there's anything that seems completely not the same, we will find out fairly rapidly. And outside of this meeting, we will have the finer detailed discussion about where's and when. Is that all right, members? Okay, so if I can now move us on to accepting this motion, which is what it is. All in favour, please? Anybody? No, we're unanimous, thank you. Right, I think that brings us to the final item on the agenda. Thank you, Dave, for being so patient. This is the item on planning appeals, and the legal service manager will report.
So, excuse me, the following appeals have been dismissed. 11 Walesmead Close, Bishopstoke. That was an appeal against the council's refusal to grant planning permission for a 3-bedroom chalet bungalow, a detached family dwelling located on the gardens of and adjacent to 11 Walesmead Close, with the associated garden amenity and parking facilities. And the second appeal that was dismissed was in relation to 4 Roker Way, Fair Oak, and that was an appeal against the council's refusal of planning permission for a change of use to private garden and erection of a 1.8 metre fence.
Thank you very much. That just leaves me to bring this meeting to a close and to remind you all that the date of the next meeting will be Wednesday the 8th of March at 7 p.m. here again in the wonderful Woodland Community Hall, because Fair Oak is lucky and has hundreds of community spaces, unlike Bishopstoke.